Good morning, everyone. Today's an unusual show because we should have been on 15 minutes ago, and we've had technical hitches, but we decided we're still going to. The show must go on, and Jess is muted. Jess, do you want to do a test to see if people can hear you or not? If you can actually hear
Hello.
Jess, I can't. So give it a little thumbs up if you can hear Jess. But what we're going to talk about this morning is a sale that we just had in Crown Road, 2080 Crown Road, Queenscliff. And we wanted to educate purchasers how to negotiate better. We learned a couple of things out of this sale that we thought was clever on the purchaser's behalf and vendor's behalf, and there was some stuff that could have been done a little bit better. So Jess, you and I were working with the purchaser, working with the vendors to get this sale across the line. And there's a couple of things here. One lesson is when you want to buy something in strata and do works, is it going to be possible to get those works approved, or what's your gut going to tell you if you can get those works approved? And the second thing is being transparent and frightfully honest with the real estate agent, even though you may not get the result you want. Sometimes it works out a little bit better. So, Jess, you're going to have to do this on a keyboard because, negotiate better while mute. Yeah, that's what Jess just wrote. So Jess, a couple of things on this. These guys first said they were going to exchange with no cooling off, unconditional, and got the owner a little bit on a high that they were going to sell their property. And then they took that off the table, which surprised all of us. So they wanted a 5-day cooling off. The 66W was the bargaining tool. So they actually used the no cooling off as a bargaining tool, and it worked. Then they took their 66W away. Jess has written something else. If you've just tuned in, Jess is mute, so I've got to read her messages for you. Building and pest inspection is the reason why they decided to add the cool off. But then even after they did the pest inspection, they still didn't reduce the cooling off period, which sort of frustrated the owner even more, because the owner thought, hang on a sec, I only accepted this deal because it was a 66W. It was a non-cool off. Then Jess has written another message. The strata building, to a strata building. Yeah, actually, good point, Jess. They doing a strata inspection, and a lot of people ask about this. This is the first show I've ever done where the other person is mute. So bear with me on this. But it is unusual that people get a pest and building inspection on a strata building, because you can only get access to the internal of one unit. Say if it's a block of 12, you can only get access to the internal of one unit, and then the builder literally has to walk around the outside of the building. Even the roof is often too high. The builder can't get on the roof, can't get in the roof, can't get under the building. So I regard it as I've got to be careful what I say, but I do reckon it's a waste of money, to get it done. If there is generally a problem with the building, it's going to come up and be surfaced in the strata. Someone has brought up the issue or the problem over months or years that has to be rectified. So to get a building in PES where you can only go inside the unit, we thought was a little bit unusual. So this was the tale of the sale of 2880 Queenscliff Road. So it was getting twisty and a little bit weird. Once the building inspection was done, there was another twist, Jess. Okay, finance. So that was the next one with this deal, where at first it was, no, I've got my finance approved. It's all okay. I want to buy this unconditionally with no calling off. Would you accept this offer? Owner says yes. Then the building inspection card comes out. Now the finance card came out that we can't go unconditional because of finance. And along the way, Jess, I think you were a bit confused because there was a 66W offered at the beginning of the transaction, and it's like, hang on a sec, why are we extending the cool off? Why are we seeing out the whole cool off, because our instructions from you, Mr. Buyer, was it was only because of the only because of the building inspection. Now it's due to finance, and I think you are asking about finance every day. That's what your message says, and it was like unusual. So once that got sorted, it sort of got a little bit more confusing. This is the tale of the sale. This is what some of the stuff we do as an agent. After that, it came down to what was it, Jess? There was a request to take $2,000 off due to the exhaust fan and a moisture around the toilet or a crack on the toilet, which then the owner thought to themselves, am I going to lose the whole deal over $2,000? And by saying, I'm not going to take $2,000 off the price. This is the property over $1 million. And then, or am I going to say, no, I'm not negotiating? And this is a real twist for the tale of the sale. The owner turned around and said, I'm not going to take $2,000 off. Like, I've had enough. I've given a cool off for building inspection. Then it turned to finance. Now it's turned to $2,000 off due to a cracked toilet. No. And the owner was actually willing to walk away from the whole $1 million deal over $2,000. And Jess, who's mute today, who can only message me, what happened then? Went between the solicitors, the $2,000. And we handle a motion between parties. Need to tell your agent what's happening so you can talk to your vendors beforehand and manage the emotion. It looks jarring when it comes through the solicitors. Turns out it wasn't actually that. They were that concerned about the $2,000. Yeah, so what happened is the $2,000 request that they wanted for the toilet fix, they didn't really care about, but they thought they'd try it on for size. Did frustrate the owner enough to say, I'm not going to do the deal over and take $2,000 off. I'll walk away from the $1 million sale. In the meantime, what you just mentioned was, and I thought this is probably the best lesson out of this tale of the sale to buyers out there, is whenever the purchaser was doing any of this, it was going through their lawyer, not through us. And the problem is, if you do it through a lawyer, it can be lost in translation. A lot of this stuff, an agent can segue and assist and massage the deal, but sometimes when it goes through the lawyers, it's lost in translation. It's a bit clunky, through emails. Lawyers generally won't call each other. They'll just flick an email to each other, and it gets lost in translation because there's so many parties in between instead of, you know what I mean? So I think that was really frustrating because we were blindsided. Our owner would call us and say, why does she want $2,000 off? And we're like, what are you talking about? Or the owner would say, what's with the building or finance? We're going, what are you talking about? So I think you've always actually got to make sure you communicate actively, honestly with your agent in a negotiation for a purchase, and it's just less risk. Michelle. Yeah, well, thanks, Michelle. Thanks for the message, Michelle. Yeah, so if you've just tuned in, guys, Jess cannot talk on our audio today, but the show must go on. So, yeah, it is. It's a bit weird, but it's funny. All right, so the tale of the sale of Queensliff, it started getting curly. $2,000 didn't come off. Buyer said they're going to proceed. Was there another turn in this? I think there was. There was. So the next thing the buyer wanted to negotiate was to be written into the contract that they could pull out of the contract and perhaps at a later point re-engage in the contract, because there's legislation changes for first home buyers. The threshold changes. So just so everyone knows out there, there's new legislation coming in tomorrow. End of financial year today showed 777. So there's some new legislation coming through that Labor government has introduced with first home buyers. And I think you may find some buyers in those price points have stalled in the last week or two, have refused to buy in the last week or two off the back of them being able to get some money off. So that's being introduced tomorrow. So you may see a little bit of a kick in the market over the next week or two or month or two with this new first home buyer coming through. So after all that, Jess, what happened on tail of the sale? You, Jess. That was weird. There was another one. So then, amongst all this is all happening in 5 business days, by the way. It's such a short time, all these twists and turns. People, when you look at a strata building, you often as a buyer have ambitions of what you can and can't do. And you sort of don't even want to buy the property if you can't do the renovation. So this particular property, I was talking to a completely separate person from the transaction yesterday, young bloke, very snappy, and he's like, mate, I've seen your property advertised, don't know how I've missed it. I reckon I can get a 3rd bedroom in there. I reckon I can move the bedroom into the kitchen. I reckon I can slide the kitchen into the dining. I reckon I could maybe enclose the balcony, and I reckon I could turn the laundry into an ensuite. And I was like, how did you know that? And he said, I looked at the floor plan. I said, I've had the property on the market for 4 or 5 weeks, and I've mastered this plan. The owners had an ambition being builders to do this, but someone from outside could actually see that this you could turn a 2-bedroom potentially to a 3-bedroom if you got strata approval, and that would add a good 200,000 or 300,000 to the value of the property. But when you're buying a place, what assurances or what guarantees do you have that you can execute? Because that's the whole reason that you're going to be buying it. So this prospective buyer was worried, concerned. Could they had similar ambitions? Not all of the things I mentioned, but a few walls here and there. And they were like, has the owner done this? Well, like, yeah, well, the owner had some tentative talks with Strata, and can you send me plans? Can you send me engineering? No. Do you have an engineer who did it? Yes. Can you send me plans? Can you send me engineering? No. So it sort of kept going in and out, these questions every day, which made it even more complicated, the transaction. Do you run the gauntlet, says Jess. Mute Jess. Some of your destinations have errors. It's getting even better with our broadcast today. Do you run the gauntlet? Yeah. Well, I guess, with these renos, look, there's no guarantee you're going to get them prior to buying the property. You don't have the time to actually get these renos approved with Strata prior to buying the property. So, it's one of those things. I think you've got to look at the likelihood of getting these approvals through. But that's the tale of the sale today with Jess Patterson, who was mute. There was a couple of lessons in there. What else, Jess? What else do you want to say without saying? It was a great property end of the day, and everyone is happy. Yeah. Even after all those ins and outs of that sale, purchasers happy with the property, vendors happy with the sale. These guys have got a beautiful new home in Queenscliff, and I've got to say, Queenscliff is my favourite suburb on the Northern Beaches. Got to be careful. Don't tell anyone in DY. But I do love Queenscliff. And it's a 2-bedder. It traded for a $1.2 million. It's a 45-year-old building. It's internally, the size was approximately 90 metres squared, I think, Jess. Give me a thumbs up. 90? 100 metres squared internally. It was a big unit internally as well. And everyone's happy. And that's how you do a social media show with another person who never talks, who's been muted because we can't work out technology. So anyway, Jess, thank you. Have a beautiful day today, and everyone enjoy. And thanks for watching the show. Love ya. See ya. Bye. Jess says thank you as well. See ya.